Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Hello everyone, welcome back to online course on structure, form and architecture, the synergy. Today we are at lecture number 20. So this is all about the temporary structures. Previously, like in previous lectures, we have discussed about the compressive structure, then the tensile structure, and also we discussed about the load bearing structures. Now we move to a different kind of structural term, that is temporary. So basically, as the name suggests, in this lecture we will be discussing about the structure which is just made for a small duration, is just to not for like for staying for a longer duration or permanent. And we should also know the requirement of different structural system to make those temporary structures, and also the need of temporary structures to support our some buildings or to give a form. So let us start with this particular lecture, which is temporary structures. So basically, if you see the need of temporary structures, so it helps in giving support to unsafe structures. So many a times if a building is too old and over the period there will be some deterioration on structure, so the building is considered to be very unsafe. This is one. Sometimes maybe due to some faulty construction, or maybe the material used was not of the required property, then also your structure will become weak. So for that we need to support it with some temporary arrangement. So temporary structure helps in giving support to the unsafe building. In the second, it giving initial support to newly constructed structures. So here it is basically referred to the formwork. When we make the construction with concrete, so when we mix up the cement, sand, stone chip, water, and we prepare the concrete, it will be very semi-liquid form and will not really able to take the load. So for that we have to make the formwork or shuttering work that will give the initial form of the structure, and then we pour concrete on top of it and we wait till the setting time. So depending on the position, depending on the material, it may take from 7 days, 14 days or maybe 28 days to be followed after curing of concrete. So in order to make those columns, slab, etc., so we also need to make some temporary construction with the material can be of wood, plywood, it may be of steel, depending on the scale of the project, depending on the available resources with the developer or the construction partner. So that will also help into give support to the newly construction structural part. Also in making construction work easy. So this is something not really giving support to the structure, but it is giving you the framework. Many a times when we see a high rise building, so always the question comes in the mind, how like a person like paint at the at the height of the 30th floor or something like that, or some repair work to be done, how to make it at that from external wall. So we have seen such kind of arrangement, like they can make it with the bamboo or maybe the steel component to just make some platform and then they work it. So due to that particular requirement, we also need such kind of temporal arrangement. Technically we call it scaffolding. So if I broadly classify the temporary structure, so we will have two category, one is shoring, the other one is scaffolding. So we have to understand each of these term very carefully, and like we should know different type of shoring and scaffolding, and we can make some difference what are the purpose. Where shoring is basically used to support your building, either it is unsafe or maybe to give initial strain to the building under construction, and the scaffolding is basically will help to make the construction work, like laying the bricks, making plaster, making some repair work, or maybe some paint. So, different type of scaffolding depending on the height of the building, height of the structure, the scaffolding arrangement will vary, the material used will vary. So, in this lecture we will cover those issues. So, what exactly the shoring? As already I mentioned, the construction of temporary structure required to support the unsafe structure. So, what exactly? So, we make a structural arrangement, okay, which is not permanent for some duration, maybe until the building is retained to the safe position, or like maybe dismantle and a new construction. So, in order to like support those unsafe buildings, shoring is required, and that is basically a temporary structures. So, when we require it, when walls of a building develop sign of bulging and leaning outwards. Okay, so, what exactly it means? Suppose if we see a building is basically the structure is too old, or maybe due to faulty construction, so or due to unequal settlement underground. So, building will have a tendency to tilt the outer side, or maybe a part of the building is showing a leaning towards something, like it will fall. So, then a support to be given, like we have seen in like in the compressive structure thing, the flying buttresses. So, basically it is supporting the wall and anchor it to the ground. So, some kind of arrangement to be done to support this kind of thing. So, this shoring is one of the structure that can be used to solve this purpose. Now, the next point is the when your wall is a defective wall, suppose it got very much damp and very much porous, and it is no longer be taking any kind of load, rather it will give some discomfort to the indoor environment, and we have to dismantle it. But in order to dismantle it, we have to give the initial support to the slab or connecting structure, so that we can easily remove the part which is already damaged, and then we reconstruct and then make our structure safe again until that part is rebuilt. So, we can use the shoring. The other one is support the superstructure when large opening are required to be cut in a load bearing wall. So, what exactly it does means, like suppose if you have a load bearing wall, and as we discussed in the load bearing structure lecture. So, preliminarily all the load transfer from the slab through the wall to the foundation. So, this particular wall is taking the maximum load. Now, it should have the thickness to bear the load of the upper story. Now, say for example, you have to make the opening. So, we cannot simply cut one opening onto that particular wall, and for that we have to initially support the slab, okay, which initially the wall was taking the load. So, we have to give another support till that opening is made, and the framework like the door frame or the opening frame being installed properly. Till that time we have to support it. So, this is also a application of shoring to that. Now, also it gives support to the walls of two adjacent building. When say we have a series of building, and what you need to do, they are very close to each other, and we have to dismantle the building in between these two. So, if we have say 3 buildings and you have to dismantle this particular building. So, in that case, during the dismantle process and all, they may impact, keep some impact, and this 2 buildings surrounding that the middle one may fall towards each other. So, for that sometimes we have to make those structure stable, okay, we have to give some temporary support. So, that can be also done to shoring, and depending on the position and the purpose, shoring is further divided in 3 parts. So, one is your racking shores, then flying shores and dead shores. So, in this case, like though the names are very peculiar, but if we just try to understand by taking the meaning of that, so we can probably can understand it in a better way. So, racking means sometimes we always keep our books in the book shelves, and if you notice it, like in a book shelf when you put it. So, when you have full number of books, like enough number of books, you can make it in this particular parallel position, but most often if you take one book, so other will try to lean on the other book and make its stable position. So, this is basically the rack. So, considering this kind of inclined stacking or racking, so the racking shore is related to that. So, in a building, when we see the temporary structure is placed in an inclined form to support the building, so then this type of temporary structure is called racking shore. When it is flying, so fly means it relates to something in air. So, when a shoring arrangement is made such a way that there is no component touching the ground, we call it flying. And then dead shore is basically dead means we can just relate it to the soil, and here dead shore means whenever you have to make some changes for the underground structures or something to enhance the capacity of the foundation or rebuild the foundation. For that, those kind of thing we use the dead shore. In this case, it is a combination of your racking shores and the other props. So, in this picture, now based on my deliberation, you can easily guess that in this position, like this is the shoring arrangement giving the support with some members. These members can be made of wood, can be either steel, or sometimes if the span is too large, then we can go for the truss, because truss and space frame, this kind of arrangements will make it possible to even support two buildings away from each other. So, there is no connection to the ground. So, this is leading to your flying shore. In this case, if you can see that this particular wall being supported with some members, and they are inclined members. So, like you just compare it with the way we put the books in the our shelf and racks. So, this is basically the racking shore, and here if you see that what happened, the replacement of the foundation. So, you can see the drawing, the foundation is shown in dotted line. So, the upper structure is be supported with the racking, as well as in order to replace it. So, also there is another arrangement with vertical and horizontal member, so that it will give support as a temporary foundation, and then once it is made, so gradually we will remove this structure and make our structure safe again with that rebuild. Come to the racking shore, already I mentioned that it is also referred as the inclined shore. Now, what are the things normally here? So, it is basically the inclined members known as rackers are used to give lateral support to the wall. So, in this case the support is given like this. So, must be this wall is having a tendency and showing a sign to lean towards this side, and this will basically support this to make it in original position. So, what are the other things required to make this kind of arrangement? So, first of all we need to have a wall plate, and in this if you see carefully in this drawing. So, after this wall, so you have some wall plate. Okay, it may be made of steel, it may be made of wood, that depends on the severity of the structure, height of the structure, availability of the resources. Then the needle will help to connect it your rackers to the wall. So, we will make some penetration and we just give some support, some attachment with the wall. So, needle is used to stitch. So, here also the purpose is the stitching this wall plate and brackets to the wall. Then wooden cleat is also used where you have to give the support, okay, to make it very tight. So, cleat is normally being used most of the cases for your wooden joint or something. Now, sole piece is where we use at the bottom, where we actually tie up all the rackers. The hoop iron is basically where you can make those rackers tied up. The brace or bracing is something where with the higher span you have to give some tight situation. Okay. So, you have to give some tie bar to connect all the rackers together. So, this is the bracing. So, when we discussed the bracing earlier, so in order to support the lateral load we use a diagonal. So, here it is something where we used some perpendicular to the inclination, we use this, okay, and the rackers are the main components. So, like that we can support it with the racking shore. Now, come to the inclination. So, it is always better to have a inclination of 45 degree, that means the height of the building and the point, like it will make the 45 degree angle. So, this length and this height of the building will be equal, but most of the case if the building is too high we cannot have this much horizontal space, because this may be a road or this may be some space we cannot go beyond the boundary. So, then you may change it. So, basically it can have a range of 45 degree to 75 degree. So, in this case it is something like where you can imagine that this portion may be at 45, but the others are not, because it is, if it to be 45 degree, then this will go up to this level or something. So, then in that case we can introduce the rider racker. So, rider racker is basically when you need to change it. So, sometimes you can just use a bracing and change the racker inclination at certain point, so that you can also manage the horizontal space. Racker should be properly braced at intervals to give the stability to the shoring. Then size of the rackers will be determined based on the anticipated thrust. That is already I mentioned that how much the load of the wall, the leaning, the overall condition, based on that it will be decided. Now, shoring may be spaced at 3 to 4.5 meter spacing to cover longer length of the bar. So, that means it is something like I have shown that in cross section. So, in a wall, so you should have multiple such rackers to support it, right. So, this spacing can be of 10 feet or like 3 meter to 4.5 meter spacing. The sole plate should be properly embedded into the ground. So, in this case if you see this is really the the sole plate is embedded to the ground to give that particular support, whatever the thrust coming. So, that will transfer to the sole plate to the ground. So, this is also very important aspect. Now, the rider shows, as I was trying to draw here, it will be very clear that how it changes the inclination, so that it can manage it well, and this is a bigger picture how the needle and cleat will help to tie your rackers through the wall plate to the wall. So, this is what we try to discuss, and here you can see that how complicated it looks like, but definitely it is made of steel, and in this position they use some coupler. We will have some pictures afterwards as well to support it. This is another one where you can see that how like in this place it is only the iron like your steel tube being used, and here it is instead of that the the truss being used to support it with your horizontal member and inclined source, and this is another one where it is also supporting a wall. So, sometimes for some heritage structure where you do not really want to rebuild with the new material, then also you can give this kind of shoring to make it stable. Now come to the flying shore, at the name suggests that there will be no connection of any members to the ground. That means suppose there are two buildings and the tendency they will try to lean towards each of them, or maybe something like you have to dismantle the part of the building here in between. So, you have to give initial support, and then what you can do, you can just use your shoring at the top, okay, in a elevated or flying mode. So, in this case you call this as flying shore, and depending on the structure thrust and the span, this shore will be of single flying shore or double flying shore. Like this is a single flying shore. So, how it is made? So, horizontal members are being given and wall plate is the same, the cleat and needle will be same as the previous one. Along with that you have some inclined members. So, they are actually making the composition in such a manner that it will hold the load. So, like it is something you can just imagine, like where two particular walls are coming towards you and you just put your hand and put the pressure to keep them separated. So, something like that is there. So, wall plate, needle, wedges, sole piece, strut, horizontal source, they are the members of this. So, in this case if you see the arrangement is of single shore. Now, in this system wall plates are placed against the wall and secured to it. Horizontal strut is placed between wall plates and it is supported by a system of needle and cleats. Then inclined strut are supported by the needle at the top and by straining piece at their feet. So, here if you see that this is basically your horizontal strut and this inclined strut, now they are at the top, they are fixed with the needle and here it is with the straining seal. So, they are actually giving support in that manner. Now, the width of the straining piece is same of the strut. So, it some specification and it may vary based on the material to be used for that. Now, when the distance between two walls are too much, then probably the struts, the single strut will not help, then probably we have to go for the truss or space frame. So, this is something where you need to give more support. So, that is why instead of a single flying shore, so here it is basically your double flying shore use. Okay. So, let us see this picture and you can see that though this building looks like good, but this building having a very poor condition. So, in this site the racking shores is used because they have some space, but this is somewhere like we cannot have it some other utility maybe. So, for that they are making some kind of arrangement like this, and that was also cross sections. We have to create such multiple such flying shore like in a multiple numbers depending on some spacing, so that it will give the support to the deteriorated or the damaged building or the unsafe structure. Coming to the dead shore. So, dead shore it is basically used to render vertical support to the walls, roof, floors, okay, when basically the wall has to be removed or maybe some foundation to be extended. So, this is something the extended picture. So, where it is a combination of all. So, this is something where you can see that flying shore is there, this is the racking shore is there. So, flying and racking both are there, along with that they are giving some horizontal support or temporary support as a foundation before we just really make correction to those structure. So, this is also very useful shoring or temporary structure. The materials or the parts of the shore is almost same, as because we are using multiple combination to that. So, dead shore support the weight of the structure above, and that is why it is also required to support all the components separately, so that it will not really be heavy on the structure. The beams called needles are placed into the hole and supported with the vertical props. So, vertical props, if you see in this, these are the vertical props that will support the structure. Okay, the here we can also use the timber, or else we can use the steel tube, or sometimes if it is heavy, again the truss. So, in this case also there are other parts like the dead shore stand away from the wall, okay, either side, so as to allow working space. So, because when you repair your structure, so you need some space where the the workers can work comfortably, so that the spacing of those vertical props to be placed, so that there will be enough gap to work with. Then the props are tightened by the folding wedges provided at their base, and they are connected to each other. Then before the dismantling work is started, all doors, windows and other openings are well shuttered. And another important thing in this is very vital, that is the vibration. So, during the work, so when you go for the reworking or rebuilding, there will be lots of vibration. So, during that will impact the temporary structure. So, we have to take care of that, and properly we have to tie all those component together, so that it can also resist those vibration during the reconstruction or cutting any portion of the bearing wall or something. So, here if you can see that this is a picture where like a temple is already very serious condition. So, how this being supported? So, this is basically the rackers they provided, and inside that they also put something. So, here it is nothing related to the rebuild, but to support the heritage. Here if you can see that it is being provided with a timber batten to just repair this particular basement structure. So, here if you can see how that can be made. So, with the wooden batten being used, and then in order to support it, so we have to increase the base. So, the head plate being used to support it. So, the slab to be supported, so some larger base to be provided at the top, at the bottom, so that it will not slip during vibration or any such work. So, this is all about the dead shore. Now, come to the underpinning. Here basically the underpinning is the new work, okay, underneath an existing structure, underneath the existing structure without disturbing the stability. So, in this case basically it is all referred to the reconstruction of the wall. So, if you see in this image, the previous position of your foundation, the footing is at this level, and now the new one is extended to this. So, for that the whole superstructure to be supported with the props, with the racking shores, with the horizontal and vertical support. So, these props being used to support the slab and all. So, basically whenever we do any alternation and give support to the superstructure, so this particular arrangement is called your underpinning. So, here you can see such kind of thing where it is being supported initially, okay. So, the building, so that they can do some repair work. So, in this case maybe you can use simple like the iron or the steel section, or sometimes we also go for the hydraulic section to like take the pressure of this, and then strengthening the foundation can take place. Or sometimes like you just try to create the basement afterwards the building is built, then also this kind of underpinning can be used, will be useful to make the construction easy. Now, come to the second part, that is the scaffolding. So, in this section this is not nothing to related to give support to the structure. So, temporary rigid structure having platform raised up to the building, increase in height, okay, and here the scaffolding like say how it will help us. So, it enables the mason to work in different stages of the building. So, first like we lay the brick, and then the plaster, then the paint. So, all these stages like how the work processes, and this scaffolding will keep on increasing at the height of the building. So, whenever you increase your height of the building, the construction is in progress. So, from one first floor to second floor, it will also take the different shape and size as per the construction. And then also not only the different work, but it will also help to carry the material and to transport the material. So, sometimes at the very huge height, you use some temporary structure where like manually people can bring those materials, or maybe with some certain lift, or maybe with some other means which they transport the material. So, here this is something what we can see, that this is your some sculpture from the Rio de Janeiro. So, in this case, if you see that for the repair work and all, how efficiently this particular system being made. So, this is basically the scaffolding, and here the steel is used, and there are different platform and the staircase to get access to the top level. And for any construction, newly construction, it is to be the same, and even for the repair work. So, this is very well designed, and that to be designed this temporary structure, and this is again under the scaffolding. So, if you go to the type of scaffolding, so here it is the like divided mostly in the bricklayer scaffold, mason scaffold, steel or tubular scaffold, needle scaffold and wooden scaffold. So, what exactly they, so we will try to understand that with some schematic cross section. So, bricklayer scaffold is a very simple one. So, where like basically what you need to do when the wall is constructed. So, we use some standard and laser. So, what are the standard and what are the lasers? So, standard are basically your vertical members of this particular framework, and laser are the horizontal. So, they are tied up, and along with that to give support to the wall. So, you can see that many times like during construction we put some hole, okay, we just miss some brick portion, so that we can give support. So, this all members which are connecting this frame, this laser and your standard to the wall with a put lock. And if the structure is too high, then probably due to the wind load, the lateral load, it is not safe only to connect it with the wall. So, we just use the bracing. So, give more stability, and whenever we want to work something, we also use some platform or the boarding. So, this is also required, where one can do the plastering or some kind of alternation to those brickwork and all. So, this is designed, and the gap between these two will be determined based on the acceptance of the gap, so that one can really climb on each layer, and this is very much familiar in most of the cases, and I guess that all of you have seen this kind of arrangement. So, this is the brick layer. So, like the brick work and the put lock is the main wall. Now, sometimes if it is something like your brick wall is not being used to use the put lock, then you make your scaffold separate, standalone. So, in this case what you do, so in this case we used instead of a single, there is no connection to the wall like the previous the put lock. So, here we have the standard, and then in this case put lock is not connected to the wall, right, and then we use some inclined rackers to support it. Okay. So, there is no connection with the wall, and then we use the same boarding and all. So, this is something different from the previous one. Previous one we have connection to the wall. So, the small punctures made to the wall and we connect this framework. Here it is standalone, separated with the inclined member. It is only possible when you have sufficient space, okay, available from the building. Suppose it is just next to your some road, important road, where like people are moving or something like that, we cannot really use this kind of rackers. So, then we have to move for something else. So, in this case it is the steel and tubular scaffold. So, earlier it was something maybe made of bamboo or something. So, here the thing is something different. The only difference is that instead of those tying up the knot. So, if you see these are fixed with the knot, suppose some rope is being used to tie those laser and standard. So, in this case the coupler being used. So, they are having different joints, and then with that you have the mechanism to tie it up as per the requirement. The advantage of steel and tubular scaffold is that you can reuse for multiple time. When you use your bamboo or something, so it is restricted to some height, and then you have to tie it up, and it will not that much reusable. After certain use you have to dismantle it, but there it is available with standard. You can adjust the height, and then the rest of the things is pretty same. So, here also you have the coupling what I mentioned, the base plate, so that you can put your tubular section on a particular plate, so that it will not slip during the work and all, and the bracing is the same what we used earlier. Now, in this case the steel and tubular scaffold, this is another type. This type is where also you use this particular support to the wall. Okay. So, this is one, but in this case it is again a frame. So, instead of one, so we use two kind of setup and make it like a stage, okay, a platform, and if you see from the side the section is something like that. So, where there is no connection to made to the wall. So, it is similar to the second category that we discussed in this. So, now it is made with the steel and tubular scaffold. The maximum number of components are the same in this case. So, it is again the same example in detail. Okay. Now, the needle scaffold is something else, where like you cannot really access to the ground because of the busy road or something, and then something to be done at the top. So, stating something like making something from the ground unnecessary, you are investing cost and complexity. So, somewhere like we can use big needles to put that needles inside your structure, give this support with the props, and then like with inclination you can fix it with the seal level, and then you make your scaffolding for repairing the upper structure. So, it has no connection with the ground. So, this is something different from the others. Few other categories that we discussed, they always have a connection with the ground, but here it is not. The purpose is that you have to make some correction at the top, not at the ground level, and at the same time there is no such provision to make those structure from the ground, or it will hamper the daily life. Like that also you can have the wooden scaffold or gantry. So, here it is basically not only using will helpful for making the work, as well as that it will also carry the material, to transfer the material. This traveler or crane that can be also used. This is normally the wooden batten being used. Now, the wooden scaffold is something also we call it platform gantry. So, where something again similar to the needle one, where you have to repair something at the upper portion, and you cannot disturb the the part. So, maybe somebody can easily go through this particular space. So, we elevate it, we create the platform, and we create the space in between, so that that can be used for the regular activity, and proper care to be done with making the platform, the plank floor, the head, all these things, and it is self supported with your structure. So, this is also helpful for a purpose where you have some busy road or something, and you have your building just next to the road, then this kind of platform gantry will help you. So, now it is basically where in a end of this lecture, and we will try to see the different kind of arrangement. So, in this case if you see, this is basically a local arrangement, how the construction being done and the platform, and you can see that how it is being supported. So, this put lock, how this is connected to the wall, and so as true with this. So, suppose you can see all those punctures in that, so that in the later stage you can use the put lock to increase the height of the scaffold, and it is made of the bamboo, and you can see the height, so that one can easily reach it. Now, compared to that, here it is something with made of steel, those section is milled, and the platform, and again this is something very important when you go for the construction work, definitely for the high rise building. So, safety to be maintained. So, for that you have to have some guard rail, so that during the construction there will be no such casualty happen. So, this is another type of scaffolding here, and like this is something where like is a very huge one. So, this is also made of your bamboo, and you can easily see those bracing. So, one of the building that I have shown that where structural bracing is used to give the lateral support, but now also for the temporary structure the concept is same because of the huge vertical structure. So, there will be some wind from different direction, so that may collapse. So, for that also the structural arrangement we have to put some bracing, and you can see that due to that huge height and different platform, and also it is not straight. So, in compared to that, if you use your steel members, so then it will be more stable. So, here you can see how this is being made. So, how the structure is formed. So, how this is being carried with a pulley, and then how the knot is being made to make connection with the standard and laser. So, this is standard and this is laser, and this is probably the put lock attaching to the wall. So, this is how this is made, and now this is basically in place of the bamboo how you can use the steel to make it more clean, more safe, and most importantly those can be reused. So, these are the couplers that I was talking about. So, how they are fixing it, different horizontal and vertical members with the tube and all, and the whole structure can be made of the steel. So, mostly for the high rise structure or maybe something good developer construction company and all, they use this kind of props because this is available with the standard height, so that there will be no adjustment. For the other case the bamboo based on something like we have to adjust it. So, this are the another example. There are few props to be made like this. So, scaffolding is basically very helpful to carry out the work, and this is something like for a huge structure. So, the complexity and making those structure is very crucial, and this is the first step where you just start your structure making and then give a final look. So, making this temporary structure is also very important, and we should also know this kind of arrangement, what are the available thing. Apart from that also during the foundation trenches and all, we also use this kind of temporary structure to support, to stop the erosion of the soil or the falling the soil on the trenches. So, we also create this kind of separation. So, this trenches the shoring being used. So, with that like now in this case what we have learned that the shoring is one where it is giving the temporary support to the unsafe structure, the other is the scaffolding. Scaffolding is just not to support the structure, it is to ease off the work of the construction and any kind of finish work like paint, plaster and something, and in both the cases it may be made of wooden, it may be made of steel, or sometimes it may be made of your truss like instead of a single tube or something like that. And the tying up, it may be with the rope or it may be with some coupler. So, depending on the structure, depending on the scale of the construction and all, available resources will decide upon that. So, with this we conclude here, and for further reading you can go through this building construction book by Sushil Kumar. There are many books, you can refer anyone where you can get this kind of stuff. So, with that I conclude here, and then we will be again discussing in next lecture the frame structure, and again I thank you all for taking part in this course. Until we go for the next lecture, it is bye bye from my side. Thank you.